The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC.
Everyone, get in here! Ready for action! I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is The Angry Chicken.
The announcer never lies. This is a podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft called The Angry Chicken. And I'm Garrett Weinzierl, and he's Willie Dills, and she's Jocelyn Moffat. And as excited as I am, as I always am for a new episode of The Angry Chicken, I'm sad that we're not in the same room, guys.
Yeah, BlizzCon came and went so quickly. It was just like, oh my god, it's time to pack for BlizzCon, to, oh my god, I'm home now. It just like was one crazy, it seemed faster this year than every other year. I don't know. I just blinked and it was over. It sucked.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, last year I also was around a little longer because I was like, yeah, I'm going to make a honeymoon out of this. But still, no, you're absolutely right. It felt like I was there and then, boom, back home and dealing with real life.
Yeah, and even then, I felt like I was there until Monday, and even having that extra day on the end, still, I felt like I didn't get to see everybody, and then people were gone when I thought they weren't going to be gone, and then, you know, like, I got to still see and do, like, Garrett, you were there on Sunday night as well, so we got to have dinner with a whole bunch of friends, and it was just so fast.
Yeah, that said, I want that extra day after BlizzCon from now on. That was lovely.
Yes.
I'm going to do that as much as humanly possible for BlizzCons going forward because it was nice to decompress.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's nice to have the extra day, even though a lot of people do have to leave on the Sunday, obviously, for work reasons. But it was really nice to just have that extra little day where you could, first of all, have fun on Saturday night and then not have to worry about getting up for a plane at like 5 o'clock in the morning. But then, poor Dills. But then also, you know, you had more time to hang out with friends and see fans and stuff like that on the following day. So it was good. It was fun. It was really chilled and relaxed, but again, so fast.
Yeah, how have you
Sounds
been,
great
Dills?
that you guys thought it was fast. I feel like I haven't been home in years.
Well, you haven't.
Well, yeah, but you had a whole extra like week in Vegas though, tacked on to the end of BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a little bit of a different experience from us.
A little different.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it felt like BlizzCon took you. Like we left BlizzCon, Dills was just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Rip Dills, BlizzCon killed him. Yeah, I barely made it through a week of Vegas though. But apparently I did better than most of the guys. I think this was the first year, you know, we had 205 medios this year for the Mediocre Golf Association World Championships. And normally everybody gets back and they're like, so fun. I miss you guys already. This time everybody got back and was posting on Facebook that they're never going to recover and Vegas sucks. And why are we doing this in Vegas every year? And oh my God, like I can't feel my face. So, you know, Vegas kicks your butt, but not. I think actually, the BlizzCon experience made me force myself to take a couple nights off in Vegas, which overall really helped. Like in the end, I was still kind of fine, and everybody else looked like zombies on the Saturday. So, thanks BlizzCon.
Yep.
Little extra byproduct.
Well, I don't know about you guys, especially you, Jocelyn, but I let my beard go real bad after BlizzCon. I got back, closed up my house, proceeded to tear down a bunch of ceilings and paint walls, and just had I threw all manscaping to the wind and just kind of became this gross cave dwelling animal. And you know me, I usually have a little bit of a scruff on my chin, but lately the beard has just been bothering me, especially while painting walls. Because I have gotten paint in it more than once. So I got really annoyed over the weekend and shaved my damn beard off. So I was very happy that this episode was brought to you by Harrys.com. who are sponsoring this episode of The Angry Chicken, because, oh man, I haven't full on just shaven my face in so long. I love Harry's. I've been using them to just keep my neck beard in check, and as Dills and I have talked at length, our shoulders. But
great for shoulder, fantastic for shoulders.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah. But I was very happy to be sitting on a healthy supply of Harry's blades, because I was like, oh yeah, now I finally get to really see what these guys can do, and the answer is a lot, very very quickly.
I'm looking forward to it, because actually this is all just I've been letting this go. I've been here for 1 day, and I'm going to take the longest bath then shower. I'm going to do the combo plan, and then full I might even get rid of all the hair on my face. I might just do it,
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah,
I mean, Harry's can stand up to it, so you might as well give it a shot.
Maybe I should start by just get rid of the beard and just have
no.
You're gonna do the Goldberg.
Vetoed.
I just got vetoed. Damn.
Yeah. I mean, maybe for one funny picture, but then gone.
Maybe for one funny picture and a few super funny weeks. And
no.
I'm not gonna lie. While I was shaving, I was like, "What do I look like with mutton chops?" And the answer is terrible. Terrible.
It's a very specific look that only works on a few people, and I'm not even sure it works on them. So,
unless you're fighting in the Civil War, probably not. But yeah, we'd like to thank Harrys.com for sponsoring this episode. And hey, guys, today we are spending the entire episode talking Grimy Goons cards. So if you don't want to look like a Grimy Goon, you best get over to Harrys.com and sign up for their free trial set. Because when you do that, if you use the code TAC, not only do you get your free trial set, but you also get a special gift. You will get their post-shave balm absolutely free for using the code TAC, and you'll support the Angry Chicken in the process. So we really, again, appreciate Harrys.com for supporting us, and we appreciate all of you out there who need a good shave and are using the code TAC over at Harrys.com.
Yeah, dude, seriously, just do it. If you are a person who shaves, i.e. half of the world, i.e. 90% of the world.
Yeah, most of the world, because
try it out for free, right? And then if you don't like it, then whatever. So
I have done my legs with Harry's razors. They are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They stand up to even that much surface area, guys. I know that's always a concern for the ladies, because there's a difference between a face and a whole entire leg, but it works.
We could do a whole episode on which is more difficult.
I'm not talking difficulty. I'm talking just straight up surface area and the number of hairs that need to get cut.
Okay, all right. If we're talking math, if we're just going pure math here, yeah, all right. But I'm talking, we've got weird, this juts out in a very strange way.
And these don't jut out at all?
Maybe your Adam's apple? Oh, man. That is a scary prospect every single time.
I mean, Dills, what is the knee but two larger Adam's apples?
All right, maybe. You can try.
But I can see that a knee is not as scary as your throat. If I cut my kneecap, it sucks. But if I sliced my throat open, that would be a problem.
Point Dills. All right.
Yep.
All right, well, definitely go check out Harrys.com, everyone. Check out their free trial, and it's really risk-free. You can cancel at any time, just like WoW or Netflix. We're nerds. We know how subscriptions work, so go check it out. Joss, you have an announcement about Taco Fall.
Yes, originally we were planning on doing taco this coming Saturday, but unfortunately, with all the travel that we've been doing, it's just we haven't had as much time to coordinate. Some of us need weekends to recover. Totally understandable. So what we're going to do is, especially now that Garrett is in the middle of moving, we are going to move taco until all three of us can be more a part of it, and it's going to be on December 10th. So keep an eye out for that. Invites will go out the week of, as we've been doing for the past couple of tacos, because that works out the best to give us an actual idea of how many people are going to be there on the day to participate. So it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday invites, as always. So keep an eye out for that the week of December 10th.
Absolutely. It is 100% my fault. This darn move is ridiculous. Plus Thanksgiving. Let's blame a little bit of it on Thanksgiving. American Thanksgiving.
We could have done it next weekend, but American Thanksgiving is right smack dab in the middle of that. So we figured that pushing it to December was just a better move for everybody involved. So if you are interested in volunteering, make sure you send an email to tactournament@gmail.com.
Nice. And I also want to remind everyone, we're just about to get into the card talk, but before we do, make sure you stick around after the show. If you're listening on the audio podcast feed, stick around after the show because we have our BlizzCon interview with Rochelle and Peter from Team 5. This was the interview we conducted on the floor at BlizzCon, hot on the heels of the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan announcement, and we talked their ear off for about 30 minutes. If you're watching this on Twitch or if you're watching it on YouTube, it is a separate video over at youtube.com/amovetv. There's a link to it in the show notes. Definitely go and check it out. Now, hey guys, you remember when we were having a beer at BlizzCon and lamenting the fact that there was yet another drip feed for yet another Hearthstone expansion? We're like, man, we got to sit through like 8 cards a week. I think they heard us because the reveal speed for the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan cards is coming fast and furious. There's already 66 cards revealed, I believe. We're not going to talk about all 66 today. We're going to focus strictly on one of the 3 clans, the Grimy Goons, and including some neutrals that we have taken the liberty of assuming are Grimy Goons. You may not agree with us.
Goonish. Grimy-ish and goonish.
Yes, grimy-ish. Grimish goons. But that's the wrong overlay. But yeah, it's coming fast and furious. Sadly, no reveals for the Angry Chicken, but plenty of reveals around the web. So we will be talking about Warrior today, Hunter today, Paladin today, not to mention the 3 tri-class cards for the Grimy Goons clan, and neutral commons through legendaries that we think fall under the Goon theme. So let's get it started by looking at the revealed Warrior cards so far. A big note that not all Warrior cards have been revealed yet, but quite a few have. And there's a bit to talk about. There's a bit to talk about here. Let's start with the Grimy Gadgeteer, and I will try my best to remember to read each and every one of these darn cards for our audio-only audience, but this is a 4-mana common minion, has 4 attack, 3 health, and reads, at the end of your turn, you have a random minion in your hand, +2/+2.
So yeah, this is one of the minions that is taking advantage of kind of a new yet unnamed mechanic that we're seeing in this new expansion, which is doing something to the minions in your hand, usually buffing them by some amount. So I think this is great stats. I think a lot of the ones that do the buffing in the hands are great stats. A 4/3 for 4 is not perfect, but with that 2/2 to a minion in your hand, you can build a deck around a lot of these cards, and they're very powerful.
Yeah, Dills, what do you think of this effect? Because I like it because I like the idea of the buff going to a card in your hand because it gives your opponent a little more recourse, right? A lot of times, a lot of the cards that exist now that buff, you do it to a card that's already on the board, and a lot of times they can already attack if they've lived for a turn.
Yeah, but the weird thing about it is that you, as an opponent, you don't know what minions are in their hand, first of all. I mean, you can make some guesses. You don't know which of those minions is going to get buffed, right? So there's a lot of, we talked about counterplay and the importance of counterplay. I feel like until I see all this stuff in action, I'm really going to have no real idea on how this affects or doesn't affect counterplay in a positive or negative way. It seems like the counterplay effect will be there, but like you said, if you buff a minion that's already on board, oftentimes you wait until it can attack. But your counterplay is to kill minions before they can attack, right? So your counterplay is to take away the ability to play a Blessing of Kings, right? If you're playing against the Paladin, by not leaving any 1/1 tokens on the board, right? You just make sure you're clearing their board as best you can. In this particular case, yeah, you get a weak minion the turn you play it. So if you play this on 4, you get a 4/3, which is a very weak minion. But we've already seen things like Shifting Shade, where Shifting Shade gives you a card, but it doesn't. It kind of gives you a tempo. It messes your tempo up because the card will still cost whatever it costs later, right? And that card could be bad or good. Here you get a tempo loss the turn you play it, and then some sort of turnaround at some point in the future where then the tempo kind of is made up for, and in a bigger way than it should be, right? Because a 4-mana vanilla would be what, a 4/5. So here you're essentially getting 6/5 worth of stats for 4 mana. But the disadvantage here is it's kind of like overloaded, right? It's almost like rather than overload paying that mana later on, you're essentially paying for that mana in stats later on. And let's say you don't have a minion in your hand. You've drawn all weapons. You've drawn, can you even play this card on 4? So I'm kind of in a wait and see as far as all of these cards and how good they really are and what this really means, because it seems to me like this is going to cause us to have to run cards that we used to think were pretty bad. Like, let's say the card Assassinate, right? That just kills a minion. A lot of times we just relied on the amount of damage we were able to do with removal spells to be able to get the job done. But when all these creatures are coming out with buffs already on them, then maybe an eviscerate isn't enough, and we actually need to assassinate some minion that is now super buffed.
Yeah,
so it's going to be very interesting to see when it all starts to get played.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was another thing I was excited about when I saw this, is because it's been a long time since we really mentioned it, but in the earlier days when we talked about building your deck, there was this kind of idea of you just allocate X amount of slots for removal or targeted damage spells, right? Because there's only so many threats that can have so much health that you need to be able to deal with. But with an effect like this in play, now any minion has the potential of becoming a removal worthy threat.
Yeah, you can have minions, like suddenly people are playing minions with really good battle cries that generally used to have terrible stats, but now they've been buffed by this other card that you played earlier on in the game. And if a lot of people are playing these, you're going to kind of have this ramp up into the late game, where the early game is spent essentially making other cards for later better. And then later on, all of a sudden, you start to get this like giant minions versus giant minions kind of combat. But it really does. It speaks to what Blizzard, I think, is trying to do, which is move away from, say, random effects on the play to minion battling, which is what they've kind of always talked about. Like, you're going to be forced now to play minions if you're going to play these cards in the first place. You can't have a deck that only runs a few key minions. You're going to have, because you need to rely on the fact that you'll have minions in your hand, right? So you'll have to run a decent amount of them. And then, you'll basically use minions a lot more often as removal, because you'll need to make up that damage that like an Eviscerate couldn't do, right? So, it's going to be really interesting. I'm glad Execute was nerfed, because Execute is essentially going to be doing more damage than ever before. One of the things I heard on the Lightforge podcast, they talked about what Execute oftentimes did in terms of damage. And, Merps was making the point that a lot of times for 1 mana, you were maybe doing like 9 damage, and now for 2 mana, that's still really good, but not game breaking as far as tempo is concerned. So, we might have looked at Execute and be like, yeah, okay, it didn't really need to happen, but it was good. And now we see these cards and we go, oh, okay, all right, this is starting to make more sense. Hard removal is even more valuable than it ever has been. So
yeah, I agree. I share some of the concerns of folks in chat room. I do think these cards are slow. They're not doing jack the turn they are played. So I'm definitely cautiously optimistic. I'm a little concerned we might be looking at an Inspire.
I don't think that this is as bad as Inspire. Definitely not as bad as Joust. I think
some of these are going to be
powerful effect. And exactly, yeah. Some of the cards are going to be bad, but I think that in general, the idea of buffing your minions that are in hand can be very strong. And I think it's going to be the kind of situation where you have to build a deck around it. I don't know if you're going to be able to simply, slot 1 or 2 of these into, say, a Control Warrior or Dragon Warrior. I think you're going to have to make some informed decisions. But I think the effect itself is very powerful. Especially some of the ones that give, like we're going to talk about in Paladin in a minute, there are some that give, like all the minions in your hand, +1/+1. Like, that's extremely powerful.
Well, yeah, but especially because that's a Paladin card. Like, that's the thing, though. It's like, for a Paladin, this whole thing makes a lot of sense. But now suddenly we're talking about putting it on a Warrior. It kind of makes less sense to me, because Warrior was never typically about buffing its own minions. Warrior was typically about gaining a lot of tempo, being aggressive, or being the super control-y deck. Just playing one big minion that got buffed, or, starting slow and then building to a stronger late game with bigger minions. I'm not sure it quite fits into what they're good at, so these may be really weak in the Warrior class and really strong in Paladin.
Which could be totally fine. I mean, the effect itself can be strong without having to work in every single class. I mean, they don't necessarily just want to move the power level of all the classes up. They want to make some of the classes like Priest and Paladin that have been a little bit weaker going in, they want to make them stronger. And then some of the classes like Warrior and Shaman, they want to make them a little bit weaker. So this effect may not work in those classes, and that's totally fine. I don't think that means that the effect isn't powerful. I think it doesn't work in all the classes.
The Warrior's getting a ton of this. We look at their cards. They have 4 of the cards we know now, which is 6 cards. 4 of them essentially have this effect on them. Mm-hmm. So they're pushing Warrior that direction.
Well, I think they're going to push all the classes in this direction. I think once we see, because there's some like Shaman, we haven't seen any card reveals at all. Warlock, we've only seen 1 card reveal. So I think that all the classes are going to have like 3-ish of these cards, maybe 1 more or 1 less. But, I think that this is like the unnamed effect of this expansion.
Yep, the
I'm gonna wait and
unkeyworded
see
effect.
on that one. The Priest has none of this. I don't think Priest is going to get any of it. I think Priest is moving into a strong control archetype. I don't know, but it's all, we're all wait and see right now. Every bit of information we have is incomplete. So
yeah, and we only have half the Priest cards revealed so far. There's 5 of 9 that have come out. So
yeah,
still room for it, Dills.
It's Cabal week, man. There'll be a lot more Cabal cards revealed, although probably not all of them, because last week was Grimy Goons week, and we're still missing Warrior and Hunter cards. So
yeah.
Why theme your drip feed if we don't get everything at the end of the theme? But anyways, which by the way, if you're following along, next week will be Cabal week. By the way, and the week after that, I'm assuming will be Jade Lotus. So, by the way, if you're keeping track, we are 21 minutes in, and we've talked about one of the cards.
Oh yeah.
This is why all we have is cards and emails this week.
We don't have to talk about the mechanic in depth anymore because we've kind of covered that now, right?
Yeah.
So
yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised it wasn't keyworded, to be completely honest. But that's a discussion for another day. Next card.
Looks like, hang on, sorry, before we move on, guys, chat room is saying that the buff things in your hand is goons only. The Cabal is making potion things, and we don't know what the Lotus is yet. So apparently each family has a different themed effect.
that would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
I dig it. quite a bit.
In which case, this
At
is
least the
absolutely
random
most
minion in your
powerful.
hand thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this is most powerful in Paladin, 100%. And least powerful in Warrior. I think Hunter's somewhere in between.
Yeah, it's true. If you look at them now, like Druid doesn't have it, but they do have buff all your minions, but they don't have minion in your hand stuff. So, yep.
I think it's still okay.
Makes sense to me.
I think it's still totally fine in Hunter. I mean, playing minions on curve, which is what I usually do in Hunter, I wouldn't mind if they had a little more stats attached to them, even if it's random. I don't care. That's fine.
Yep.
Sign me up. Let's talk about I Know a Guy. It's a 1-mana common spell for warriors, and it reads, Discover a taunt minion.
Interesting card, but probably worse than what's the rogue card, Discover a Death Rattle minion. I think it's just generally worse than that one because there's no N'Zoth for taunt minions, first of all, which is pretty big deal. There's also no card. I mean, yes, you could play Gadgetzan Auctioneer and you can make Miracle Warrior, sure, if you wanted to, but the fact that it's a spell in Rogue, also a 1-cost spell, and then of course Warrior also doesn't have combo, so it loses a lot of what made it pretty decent in Rogue. And so unless you're playing Taunt Warrior because Taunt Warrior turns out to be good, and there's not enough good taunt minions to fill the deck out, so you put this in to discover some of the, so essentially put like 3 of the good taunt minions in your deck, then I don't see this card actually being that good. However, it's not that bad. I mean, it's a 1-mana discover a card, so it's obviously can fill out a turn where you didn't have enough stuff to do anyway, and that kind of thing. So it's not a terrible card, but it loses what Rogue kind of gained by this effect with the Death Rattle minions.
Yeah, taunt seems to be the thing that they're continually expansion over adventure over expansion pushing for Warrior is, come on guys, Taunt Warrior can totally be a thing. Like Beast Druid could totally be a thing.
I was about to say it's the Beast Druid of Warrior.
Yeah, because we have 3 different taunt cards that have been revealed so far, or like not necessarily taunt cards, but that interact with taunt in some way. So we have Discover a Taunt Minion, Give a Random Minion Taunt, and an actual taunt minion in the Warrior set. So they're basically, guys, taunt is a thing in Warrior. Please do it. It'll work, we promise, eventually, maybe.
I've always really wanted it to be a thing because of my like my roleplay mind, like protection warrior should be a thing, and I would argue control warrior kind of already does that with their obscene amount of armor. But I want taunt warrior to be a thing. I've wanted it to be a thing since I first got into Hearthstone. It was like, oh, taunt, oh, that's cool. It should be like a warrior theme, and it to this day has not been. So at least not a successful one. You can go and do whatever you want. I've definitely done it myself. Made some real dumb taunt decks that I've had a blast with, but I would never try and grind the ladder with them. So I don't know.
I feel like possibly taunt warrior maybe in wild would be good. Can you imagine like buffing your sludge belter +3/+3? Like,
oh, that'd be gross. It'd be really gross. Also, just having
I don't know though. To me, like I don't trust this. I don't trust this taunt warrior thing. It seems like there's better ways to just draw the game out into fatigue than just slamming taunts onto the board turn after turn. And without a way to then turn those taunt minions offensively, which I guess Bolster is attempting to do, it doesn't really, like, to me, it's like I think Tempo Warrior does what this deck is trying to do better already, right? And like that's been my issue with it forever. You know, Protect the King played against what Warrior was pretty good at, which was keeping the board fairly clear. So essentially, you were telling Warrior to let the opponent put a bunch of guys out so that you could make a bunch of 1/1s and then bolster them. And then at that point, you've made a bunch of 1/1s, bolstered them, but you left all their minions on the board. So then they got to pick and choose how to make those attacks the next turn, right? Because they all come out with summoning sickness. So it's like a bad way to do something Warrior can already do pretty well, which is just draw a game out into fatigue. I'd much rather just control the board and do all the other stuff Warrior's really good at with like big bombs later on than just hope taunt minions will do the job for me, you know? So that's my gripe with it. Some of these minions are pretty good though, and I think they'll find their way into Warrior in general. I just don't know if this whole build my entire deck around this mechanic of taunt will ever really be a top tier deck. I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, let's with that in mind, let's talk about a new taunt minion, the Alley Armor Smith, which is going to be 5 mana. It's rare. It has 2 attacks, 7 health, taunt, and reads whenever this minion deals damage, gain that much armor.
So this becomes more and more powerful as like however much you can buff it. So using one of the buff cards that I guess we're probably going to talk about soon-ish, the +3/+3, and also the I guess that's random weapon. But yeah, basically just the more that you can build this card up, then the more armor you're going to deal, but then the more cards you're investing into building this one up. So again, it's a lot of resources potentially going into one minion for something that your hero power just automatically does every turn.
Well, and then the other thing too is you play this and then they like I said, assassinate, and those types of cards might become a much bigger deal again. Say like Druid Mulch might become a bigger deal again. Probably Polymorph becomes a bigger deal again. You play this minion and then they just hard kill it rather than have it deal damage. The other thing too is if you play this and then let's say they spell power fireball it, it doesn't actually do any. It doesn't gain any armor in that particular instance. It's only when you run it into things or they run things into it that it deals that damage. So that being said, it's not a bad card. It's a totally fine card. I just think it probably looks better to some people than it really is. I think it's just I think a 2/6 for 4 that gains +3 attack when it takes damage is actually way better than this card. That card was pretty sweet and did a lot of things that Tempo Warrior wanted. This card is another just kind of slow things down. And if the game does slow down, as we've seen, like a lot of these cards seem to kind of point towards a slower meta, then this card is actually pretty bad in those cases because it doesn't necessarily trade upwards or any way. Like it might just die to a 7 attack thing that got buffed in another way, or it is really good in a aggro meta, amazing in an aggro meta, but not so good in a slower meta. So we'll see. I'm gonna wait and see on this one.
I think we could just say we're gonna wait and see on most of them.
No, but I don't think it's actually good. But I hear everyone talking about how great it is, and I'm like, look, it might be good, but I'm looking at this card thinking that's not that good.
For me, my reservation here is there's a lot of potential for minion buffing in this entire expansion, but whether it will turn out to be good or not remains to be seen. So I think a lot of that.
We have a 5-mana 2/7 in the game already that gains attack every time it takes damage, and it sees no play. So I don't know if suddenly a 5 attack minion that has the exact same, or a 5 cost minion that has the exact same stats that only gains you armor. Suddenly now that's a good card. I don't really see that being the case.
At least it's a warrior card.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Let's talk about the Grime Street Pawnbroker. It's a 3-mana rare warrior minion, has 3 attack, 3 health, and a battle cry that reads, give a random weapon in your hand +1/+1.
All right, aggro warrior, what up?
Yeah,
they love this card.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning, like this, and we're going to talk about stolen goods. Any of these things, any of these effects that are give a random blah in your hand, +X+X. It's not random if there's only one of those things in your hand. So if there's one weapon in your hand, it's going on that weapon. If there's one taunt minion, when we talk about stolen goods, it's going on that taunt minion. Maybe it's Ally Armorsmith. Who knows?
Yeah. So it does slow things down a little bit, but if you think about, say, like I play, I play Fiery War Axe and I just start bashing your face, and then on turn 3 I play this and buff my next weapon, and then next turn, and like now there's this Brass Knuckles card, right? So
what's better than Fiery War Axe on 2? I don't know, a Fiery War Axe on 4 that has +1/+1.
Well, at that point it'd be a 3/4 weapon, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there might be a thing here where it's just constant beatdown with which we've already seen with the Pirate Warrior. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's some new way to do that that's even better. It's not a pirate though, thankfully, because if it was, then it'd be like, damn it, no, they're already really annoying to play against.
Do you think they considered it for a moment? Do you think that cute little hat that she's wearing was a pirate hat for a hot second? And they're just like, wait, no, cut the brakes, cut it, stop.
Yeah. If it was a pirate, that'd probably be a little bit too much. But yeah, I think this card is totally fine and balanced. But yeah, it helps that archetype that's already out there that a lot of people really enjoy, because fast games early in the season, beat their face in with weapons, go. But I want to see them not, because a lot of these cards I looked at, I initially thought like, oh god, they're really trying to slow things down. But I don't want them to make aggro suddenly weaker, right? I don't want them to screw that up. So there are a lot of cards in the set too that have reinforced that's not happening. We are still getting decent aggro cards.
Yeah. Well, we've alluded to it multiple times now. Let's finally talk about stolen goods. It's a 2-mana rare warrior spell, which reads, give a random taunt minion in your hand +3/+3. This would make Ally Armorsmith really scary, but you're investing 7 mana worth of
It's
mana.
2 cards now, like literally. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, because even chat room right now is saying it's like the Ancient of War, and it's true, it would be a 5/10, but you've invested 2 cards in it. So then obviously the Ancient of War is a lot more powerful. It's a lot stronger because it takes 1 slot in your deck, not 2, and you don't have to try to combo anything together to make it happen. So although, yes, obviously Ancient of War, extremely strong, but Ally Armorsmith and Stolen Goods, although still could be powerful, and a 5/10 minion with taunt is nothing to sneeze at. It's not as powerful as the Ancient of War. You can't be a 1-to-1 comparison.
Yeah, it's 1 card, and you can decide. You can also make that a 10/5. You can't decide to make Ally Armorsmith a 10/5. So I think again, if we're gonna look at a card that exists right now, there's a card called Rampage, costs 2 mana, gives +3/+3. Nobody plays it except for a combo, right? A very specific combo. This can't be comboed to OTKU. So, and also that card can't anymore either. So, again, it's like, man, these just card, and then of course in the random taunt minion, it might go on the one you don't want.
Yeah.
If you're playing a bunch of taunt stuff, you probably have some taunt stuff that isn't Ally Armorsmith, and you know what I mean. Like you probably are running some other things that necessarily wouldn't benefit so much from this, and. Yeah, again, it's just like, it seems sketchy. Seems sketch to throw this card in my deck, at least right now.
Yeah. Seems everything I think we've talked about so far, it just seems slow. Like chat room's absolutely right. It seems slow, and that's why, Joss, I was like inspired. Like it makes me think of that, because TGT came out and it brought slow cards to a fast meta, and we just didn't use most of them. Mm-hmm. But time will tell. Our last warrior card we have to talk about, at least of those have been revealed so far, is Thorium Knuckles, which is a 4-mana epic weapon, has 2 attack, 3 durability, and reads, after your hero attacks, give a random minion in your hand +1/+1. And before we get real,
Thorium Knuckles, or is it Brass Knuckles? Because I've seen it in 2 different ways.
It's brass knuckles on mana crystals.
Yeah.
Oh. Well,
So, because there have been, since there's been community reveals, there have been
Some of
non-English.
them are in other languages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Although
So
it
might be
that's an interesting one. Isn't thorium like?
because
How do you convert that to brass? Is there just one language where they use the same word for multiple metals?
it's the early days. Some things get translated. Bear with us.
Exactly.
Let's just call it a frickin' sweet pair of brass knuckles that
Sure.
have apparently
covered in jewels. I love it.
they're doubling up on stamina. I'm not sure why. There's 2 blue gems. It should just be a bunch of red gems. I don't know what they're doing, but sweet art. Okay, weapon.
Yeah. Okay, weapon. It's not terrible, but it's the thing is, okay, you have to think that you're essentially you're overpaying. It's slow. It is very slow. You're overpaying for the weapon, absolutely, and you're really only overpaying by 1 because if you think about it now, there's the comparable weapon is a 2 mana 1 overload card in Shaman, right? Which is a 2/3 weapon. So that would be like your comparable weapon to it. There's also Paladin that's a 2/2 weapon, or could be a 2/3 if you win a joust, right? Those are the existing like 2/3 weapons out there. So you're overpaying essentially by 1. But it comes out later, right? Having it come out on 2 is also very important because then it actually kills stuff. At that point in the game. But if you're also saying that it has attached to it +3/+3, that's not terrible. I mean,
it's not horrible. I've honestly been comparing it more to Sword of Justice than anything else because Sword of Justice you're sacrificing durability in exchange.
With Sword of Justice, you're not getting any attacks with. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Dealing 6 damage.
That's what I'm saying. You get 3 targeted 2 damage attacks out of this, whereas Sword of Justice, if you want the buffs, you're sacrificing durability for those buffs, or if you want the attack, you're sacrificing buffs for that attack. Whereas this, you kind of get both, but in a very different way, and also 1 turn later. If we are comparing it to Sword of Justice,
yeah. So I think this card is not bad and not good. I think this is a fair card. Like this is costed right for what it's doing, because it takes a long time to get there, but in a game that's drawn out and where it does get some attacks in. And because it's a warrior, like doing the 2 damage and then finishing something off with a minion, say, is not so terrible in that class, right? If this was a rogue weapon, this would be awful. So you'd be like, I am just using my health up, and I'm, sure I'm buffing my minions, but then I die. Like, at least warrior gets to like regain that health in a pretty significant way. So I think some warrior deck will be able to utilize this. That being said, I don't know if this. It also depends on if there are cards that are just so much better than this, right? Like where the baseline is for what a good card is has to be, kind of in that TGT Karazhan, like where we've been seeing the power levels, and we can't end up with like these kind of like in Wild, this won't see play because there's going to be GBG cards and stuff out there, right? So
yeah,
I'm honestly going to be surprised if it sees play as it is, because it just seems exceptionally average.
Yeah. It's in the pocket of average. It's in that average pocket.
Yeah.
But I mean, there could be like, I look at it and I say I see uses for this. That being said, the deck has to also be able to win games. Even though that card might have done some cool stuff, you might just still lose the game because the deck itself kind of sucks, right? So
yeah. But still, brass knuckles are now like a weapon in Hearthstone, and that makes me smile. So I call Thorium Knuckles, brass knuckles, whatever the hell they're actually called, a success.
Sure. And again, I think this card too is going to be, if you are playing this, you're playing it with things like Grime Street Pawnbroker, Upgrade, the pirates that buff weapons. Like this does a lot because of the fact that it has the 3. It's like a weapon that's equipped for long enough that you can then start to buff it and play those turns out, whereas like say something like, a lot of times, I don't know if when you play Hunter and you play the Eaglehorn Bow and then you're trying to get a secret to go off so you can get the buff off, it's like something that can be kind of counterplayed, and sometimes you just can't get that extra durability on it. Like this is a card that has enough charges to begin with that it's feasible you will get the extra charges and the extra attack on it, right? So it can be worked with a little bit more.
Nice.
If that makes sense.
Well, let's move on to the next class that makes up the Grimy Goons, the Hunter, and the 6 cards that have been revealed for them so far. Let's kick it off with the only common Hunter card that's been revealed, the Shaky Zip Gunner, which is one of my favorite names for anything so far in this set. This is a 3-mana common minion with it has a 3 attack, 3 health, and a death rattle that reads, giving random minion in your hand +2/+2.
I think this is great in Hunter. I think Hunter already, especially if you're looking at a death rattle type minion deck, although I don't know where this would necessarily fit in right now, but if you're running a death rattle type deck, I think this is a valid choice in your 3 slot.
Sure.
It's already a little bit clogged because of your animal companions, and they're never going away. But
the 3 slot for Death Rattle though is a little bit awkward right now. It's like Harvest Golem or nothing, and Harvest Golem just doesn't really make the cut that often. So if you're playing like some sort of a N'Zoth Hunter and you want to bring things back, it's pretty good. Princess Hooharan is obviously pretty good with this guy. It's not a beast, unfortunately, so you can't. That
is
get
key.
beast energies out of it, but. I don't know. I think it's fine. I think it's a fine card. Essentially, you could say that it's 5/5 for 3.
For 3,
so.
yeah.
I would like to start a campaign that gnolls should be beasts.
They're beastish. They're beastly.
Well, but you can't skin them, right? Because they're humanoids.
I am aware. That's why I'm starting a campaign. I'm starting a campaign.
Again, I think this is a fair card, so I guess it depends on whether fair cards make it into decks or if every card in your deck has to be broken good.
I'm definitely going to try it in my Death Rattle Hunter.
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely.
Definitely going to try it. Let's talk about Dispatch Kodo, a 4-mana rare beast for Hunters. It has 2 attack, 4 health, and a battle cry that reads, deal damage equal to this minion's attack. So not all that exciting if it's 2 attack, but this is the Grimy Goons. There's a lot of minion buffing going on.
Yes. And actually, a 4-mana 2/4 that deals 2 damage to something is not awful. I mean, it is something that matters, right?
And it's also not random damage, right? It's directed damage.
You
battle cry and target it. So I think that's also an important distinction to make, is that you can make some good decisions and use this as some removal tied into your Kodo, it's basically do 2+ damage. So however much you've managed to buff it, and there is a battle cry 2-mana card that could work well with this to allow you to do 3 damage and clear off, your opponent's 2 or 3 drops. So I think Dispatch Kodo is powerful.
It has to be buffed in your hand though, because you can't buff this on this board and then do anything with that battle cry. So, but there's a card that's 5 mana, 4/2, deal 2 damage, right? So here's 4 mana, 2/4, harder to kill, right? That has that exact same battle cry, and that can go face. That can do whatever you want with it. That can hit your own minion. That can hit your Gazrilla if you really want to, if you want to go down that road. So, yeah, I mean, we'll have to see the rest of these 3 cards that are in here, because if they're all like the give a random beast in your hand or whatever, then this card will be even better at that point. But, even without a buff, it's like a fine card.
And the thing is, the reason that it's better is because it is a beast, and when you're playing Hunter, you want your beast to stick to the board. So, having that lower attack is actually fine in a Hunter deck, because you want things to Houndmaster, you want things to activate your kill commands. Like, having your beast stick is way more important than them having big attack, because it enables so many other things later on in your deck, in your game. So
well said.
Absolutely. Scotty makes a good point. Old Keeper of the Grove.
Oh,
definitely.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
It's essentially half of one of the options there.
I would be very excited about Keeper of the Grove if there was any potential to increase its targeted damage at all, and you have that with Dispatch Kodo within Mean Streets of Gadgetzan.
And a beast.
Also, I guarantee you, I'm going to rage at this card at some point. At some point, this thing's going to get buffed to where it deals lethal damage to me, and I thought I was safe against the Hunter, and I'm going to just go, really, Dispatch Kodo? Really?
And then I will laugh.
Yes, you. Oh, you so certain it will be you killing me with the dispatch
Yes.
Kodo? Is that what you were saying? All right.
That is now my goal for this expansion. Kill Garrett with a obscenely buffed dispatch Kodo.
All right. Well, I will take my taunt warrior up against your minion buffing
Dispatch
hunter.
Kodo. Okay.
Let's move on and talk about the next rare minion for hunters, the Trog Beast Rager. This is a 2-mana rare minion, has 3 attack, 2 health, and a battle cry that reads, give a random beast in your hand +1/+1.
Yeah, so this is the 2-mana card that I was talking about that synergizes really well with the Kodo, right? Like if you have the Kodo in hand and then you play your Beast Rager, then it's going to buff the Kodo or any of your other beasts, but could buff your Kodo if that's the only one in your hand. And then on 4, you play this, you get 3 damage targeted, which awesome.
And then you have Bran on the board and you do 6 targeted damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, playing a 2-mana, so like I compare it kind of like to like the cleric, right? Like where, you know, you're getting a 3/2 that buffs something 1/1. Obviously, the buff comes later, not instantly. But the fact that the Dispatch Kodo exists, or the fact that Stranglethorn Tiger exists, like means like that this card kind of has a place already. You know, playing a 5-mana 6/6 with stealth, that's a beast, is pretty insane. So I don't know. I see this definitely. If this is the type of deck you're going for, this has a place in it.
Yeah,
sure.
I think I would play the Trog over the Elec for sure.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
have
the reason
so
for
many.
the Elec,
Yeah.
the reason for the Elec was that Hunter lacked card draw, right? So, you know, again, if this is helping you be aggressive to the point where you don't need the card draw, then absolutely, like it replaces it because it does something more for you in those turns, those early turns, than Elec really does. So,
Yeah.
Yep, I think it's great because I mean, in terms of at least the hunter deck that I'm playing right now has, you know, the double quick shot and then the tracking, and usually that's enough outside of Elix because Elix aren't guaranteed card draw, right? So I'd almost rather have a pretty much guaranteed, given the number of beasts in my deck, pretty much a guaranteed buff than the potential to have a card draw.
Yeah, the sometime card draw.
Yeah.
Especially because the Hunter deck always ran so many 2-drops, right?
Exactly.
That it was, you know, you were hoping that somehow your Ragnaros came out or something like that.
Yeah, basically, if you're getting Rag or if you're getting your Savannah Highmane, then that's awesome. But that happens, you know, 1 out of 3 games maybe. But this, every time you play it, or very, very, very highly likely every time you play it, you're going to get that buff. So that just makes your beasts, which are already strong because they synergize so well with each other, it's just adding that extra amount of strength to your hunter deck. So I think that I'd play Trog over Elec.
I'm right there with you. But will you play Piranha Launcher?
Just for fun, at least once, yes.
Okay, cool. Well, this is the 5-mana epic weapon that was shown at BlizzCon. It has 2 attack, 4 durability, and reads, after your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 Piranha. And yes, the Piranha is a beast. I got to say, I totally bought into the I can't remember the gentleman's name who was up, you know, selling this card, but I bought into the hype, man. It is a gun that shoots piranhas. It just wins. I don't care about the balance of this card. It's amazing.
Now, I don't know if this matters, but on Mana Crystal it says whenever your hero attacks. I do see the after in some places too. We'll have to see the actual card. And I don't think that actually ever matters. I'm trying to figure out a scenario because with the spells, whenever and on matters, but I don't think it ever matters. Weapon attacks, yeah. But anyway, it's 8 damage and 4 1/1s for 5 mana. Is that good? I don't know. Spread out over 4 turns.
Well, that's the thing. You don't get all 4 piranhas at once.
It seems bad, but when you just break it down to its overall value, maybe if Control Hunter is a thing that matters, then maybe. But I really doubt it. I'm very doubtful on this card.
I think this is just an epic fun card. I think that if you changed it to be like the first time your hero attacks, summon 4 1/1 piranhas, then absolutely that would be super awesome and powerful and great. But I think just 1/1 piranha split over 4 turns, it's just not that great.
Oh, Jim actually makes a good point. It would matter if you attack into Explosive Trap. There you go. Because if it says whenever, that means the piranha would die to the explosive trap. There you go.
Yeah, after means it lives. And I mean, this Piranha Launcher was one that was shown at BlizzCon, and it said, and I'm looking. I even went and checked. Right now, I'm sitting on the Blizzard press site. It says after. This is from Blizzard. I'm pretty sure this is correct.
There's going to be all sorts of weird misinformation running around, but I just want to make sure we clarify whenever there's weirdness. But
yeah,
after is better. By the way.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And even though everything you said was technically correct, it's a gun that shoots piranhas. It's amazing.
Yeah. That's all you need to say. No more analysis needed.
I mean, like I said, man, 8 damage plus 4 1/1s, 5 mana.
Slowly, extremely slowly.
Just very, yeah.
Yep. Well, let's just
little by little.
Let's just move on and talk about Rat Pack, which is a 3 mana epic beast. I'm not sure I would call a rat a beast, but I don't know. That one of the back looks pretty big. Maybe I would. This guy has, or this pack has 2 attack, 2 health, and a death rattle that reads: summon a number of 1/1 rats equal to this minion's attack. So again, we're left with kind of underpowered, but not horrible, but could potentially be very strong if you get any buffs to land on Rat Pack.
I think it's a good card. I think it's a really good card. Even at 3 mana, I think. Even at a 2/2, it's fine. I think. Not to mention the fact that it's attack, so you don't even have to buff the health. You can just buff the attack, which there are ways to do.
Yep, and it's a beast, and the rats that come out of this are beasts. This is. I mean, it's just a good.
Think about abusive sergeanting your Rat Pack and then attacking something with 4 health and then summoning 4 rats. Right? That's pretty sweet, dude. But then, of course, you've also got all these other things that buff, the whole thing. So before it even comes out, the other thing too is since it's a death rattle, not a battle cry, it's actually better because you can Houndmaster it. So I don't know. This is pretty good, and it's like part of that deal with hunters where you're just like, can you stop just summoning dudes that summon more dudes, and they're just always dudes, and I can't ever get rid of your dudes.
Yeah.
That deck is just
they're ready
to go.
They're doing what I want Paladin to do better than Paladin is doing it. Like Paladin
but
seems like
Paladin's healing better than Priest, so it's fine.
No, it's not. It's not. I don't want Paladin to heal. I want Paladin to just bring the army. I want Paladin to be the quintessential token deck, and you can do it, but you might as well just play Hunter because so many good death rattles, and now yet another good one. I mean, this is the one like. Shaky Zip Gunner, man, you got a fun name. We had a lot of nice things to say about you, but Rat Pack just seems better.
Yep.
Yeah, the 3 slot is heavy. You're going to have to make some serious decisions in your 3 slot in your Hunter deck, but I think that you could, these cards are powerful. I think both the Shaky Zip Gunner and the Rat Pack, they're both powerful. So I think you have to make some decisions and play with them a little and figure out what fits your deck and your playstyle best.
And I don't even think we've mentioned Arena once here, so Shaky Zip Gunner common. Great card for Arena, totally fine. Rat Pack, you're barely going to see it, but when you do, you're going to be stoked.
Oh, hell yeah. No, if I see this in Arena, I'm loving this. But, again, it's like you look at a card like this and you say, well, when it's not buffed, it's fine. And when it is buffed, it's, broken good, right? So a card like that is just kind of always going to have a place. Mm-hmm. And, that's how I think this card really is.
A lot of potential upside to Rat Pack, and it's totally fine as a vanilla non-buff
Totally
card.
fine as is. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, the Hunter Legendary has been announced, and it's the last revealed card we have to talk about as far as Hunter is regards. Knuckles, the 5 mana Legendary Beast. Knuckles has 3 attack, 7 health, 2 pairs of brass knuckles, and he reads, after this attacks a minion, it also hits the enemy hero.
So it looks awkward, but I have hope that this card is actually decent, because this is one of those things. Like I don't think this card makes it into your average everyday mid-rangey death rattle-y hunter deck, but when I'm trying to make my Piranha Launcher work and I'm trying to play my Reno Control Hunter deck, Knuckles is perfect.
It's a clever card, right? Like it makes you want to. This is a card that makes me want to find a way to use it. I want to build around Knuckles.
Let me talk about Cobra Shot real quick, because Cobra Shot was a card that everybody thought was just hot garbage, right? And one of the top Arena players who specializes in Hunter thinks Cobra Shot was actually one of the best cards and was super disappointed. I'm talking about Shady Bunny. Was super disappointed when they took that card out of Arena because he was like, this does exactly what I want in Hunter when I'm playing Arena. And if you think, it's essentially like helps me manage the board a little and also helps me continue to deal damage to the face, right? So a card like this doesn't require you to make a decision one way or the other. You control the board and you still do Hunter stuff, right? Which is deal face damage. So this card looks terrible to the naked eye. Might actually be something if you find that deck where it works, right? So
yeah, and I think that the Buffy Hunter deck might be how it actually ends up working. I mean, if you've got cards that you're playing heading into turn 5 that are giving beasts in your hand buffs, then I mean you could end up with, like 5 10s or 6 10s, and then all of a sudden you're clearing anything that they can play from turn 5 on, and you're also hitting the face for 6 at a time,
Oh yeah, imagine hitting this with Abusive Sergeant, right? And then you slam it into their taunt minion, and then you still do the face damage.
And you still do 5 face damage, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's like I think a lot of people are underestimating what this card actually can do. The fact that it's a 3/7 means it's hard to kill. It'll probably live to the turn where it gets to attack at least once, and if it gets at least 3 damage in and maybe hits a minion and does some damage to that or pulls out a removal spell, then I think it did okay. I think it did all right. But that being said, in the normal kind of mid-range Hunter, I don't think it goes. But in this type of buff everything, like if you're playing like the Rat Pack deck and the whole point is making that really big, like making this really big too could also be good. I think people need to give this card a second look and stop just like looking at it and going, boo, worst card.
Well, this happens every time new cards come out, right? You're just like, oh, it doesn't fit into what we're currently playing. Bad card. And that's a very easy trap to fall into.
Yeah.
But we could be falling into a trap right now, too, which is like, oh, there's all these things you could do to make this card good. We really don't know if it'll actually be good, but...
It's true. Absolutely.
I think it's more fun to give... So go ahead.
That's where I think the building the deck around a card like this is really important because, I mean, like we talked about how, buffing this card could be good, buffing that card could be good. And the problem with combo decks is when you start to say, okay, I need this to happen, then this to happen, then I need to play these 2 cards, and then I'll kill you. If you start to have things where all the pieces of your deck fit together in a way that it doesn't necessarily matter what order they happen in or where these random effects fall, like if you are buffing a random beast in your hand and you have 3 beasts in your hand and you don't really care where that buff goes because all of them will turn into a good outcome for you, that's where the strength of a deck is going to come, and that's where the strength of a combo is going to come, is when there are just multiple options within your deck and you're not trying to piece 3, 4, 5 cards together into lethal.
Well, like you said, like you build around, like you don't build around this one card, but you build around a bunch of cards that do something that works. Yeah, like they all kind of allow you to make that work with a bunch of different things rather than just one, right?
Yes.
And like a card like Reno you can build around because what it does is just so damn good that it works. But a card like Knuckles is like, yeah, when I have 5 cards that benefit from what this guy also benefits from, then okay, holy crap, we got something here, and we can make that work. By the way, people in chat are asking if this goes through Ice Barrier. Well, yeah, because what this says is it says when it attacks a minion, it hits the enemy hero. It doesn't say it attacks the enemy hero. And Ice Barrier reads when your hero is attacked, right?
Yes.
So essentially, it's like you attack the minion, and then you just did the 3 damage
without
to the
proccing.
face. So it wouldn't proc Ice Barrier now.
Yeah, some potentially interesting interactions with Knuckles.
I also think that this is great because I think he is the most promising Hunter legendary that we've kind of had. I mean, King Crush was kind of underwhelming, and then we had the dual Hunter legendaries that came out. Acidmon. Damn, I can't remember now. Yeah.
Grimscale.
The one that did one. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, the one that did 1 damage to everything, and then the one that killed things that took 1 damage. It just
Hooran was fine, but Hooran was only really played for a little while. So.
I would argue that it's okay because hunters are broken in that they're the only class in the game that can put 2 legendaries into the deck, and it's called Savannah Highmane.
That is true. Yes, Savannah Highmane is a very powerful card, but I like that this, at least in this set, seems to have a Hunter legendary that we can build a strategy around and kind of get excited about more so than in the past.
Yep, and correction, Dreadscale, not Grimscale. I'm stupid. Thank you, chat room.
Whatever. Nobody plays those cards. We're expected to remember every card, even when they don't get played. No.
Yep. Let's move on and talk about Paladin, which has had all cards revealed. So
Ooh.
got a lot to talk about here. Let's start with the Grim Street Outfitter, a 2-mana common minion, got 1 attack, 1 health, a very nice bowler cap, and a battle cry that reads, "Give all minions in your hand +1/+1." All minions.
Yep. So this is where Paladin is going. Now there might be like a mid-range Paladin that comes back. This may be true, but also this whole super aggro-y Paladin deck that has all the divine shields and everything gets buffed is pretty sweet. So the thing is, that you look at this though and you think that this will play really nicely with what's the 3-mana 3/3 that gives everything with 1 health a buff.
Oh crap!
3 mana.
Chat room will tell us in a second.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, because all your little 1 health guys will now all have 2 health, right? So and I haven't really seen how that interaction's supposed to work, but I assume that when it comes out, it doesn't have 1 health; it has 2 health now, right? So it doesn't really work well. The Steward of Darkshire.
Oh,
Yeah, that would be really interesting actually, to see that interaction.
I can't see it working that way, where it comes out with 1 health and then gets the buff and then gets
and
also
then
the,
gets the
Yeah, because
to me, so I don't
Hearthstone's
think
weird
that
like
works
that.
way.
Well, how does Bolvar work? I haven't played Bolvar in so damn long. What happens when I think Bolvar
Yeah,
just
does
hits
he
and
come
you
out
see
as a
them.
one?
Attack, not 1 health. She buffs things with 1 health.
No, but does he come out as 1 and then get buffed, or does he just come out buffed?
I think he just comes out buffed. Same with
Comes out
Cthulhu.
buffed.
He does.
Buffs in your hand. You can like scroll over him and see how buffed he is in your hand.
Yeah, and I imagine that these will be the same.
Yeah. So
You think you buff it, yeah.
I think your initial reaction, Dills.
You see it in your hand with the green already on
Yeah.
it, and then it's already buffed. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think your initial reaction is on point, Dills. I mean, we could be wrong. Hearthstone has definitely gotten weirder and more inconsistent in the past, but we'll have to see.
So you won't play that card, but you might play this card. And then there's a couple other cards too in this set which want you to play lots and lots of cheap minions, right? Which means that like you'll have a handful of cheap minions you can play all at once, and then you can reload your said hand. So I do think that there's something here where aggro Paladin is going to get even more annoying than it already is, but aggro Paladin might be annoying, but it's not actually good right now. So maybe this will make it good. I am hopeful that like a literal mid-range Paladin comes back, but we'll see.
Me too. That was my favorite damn thing ever back in the day, and I miss it. But let's also talk about the future of potentially Murloc Paladin with Grimscale Chum, another 1-mana common minion. This is a Murloc minion. He has 2 attack, 1 health, an adorable mustache, and a battle cry that reads, "Give a random Murloc in your hand +1/+1."
That seems really good
Really good if you're playing Murlocs.
for 1 mana.
Chances are you're going to be able to play that Murloc really soon.
It's like the thing is, you're not gonna be playing the Anyfin OTK
Right.
if you're playing this. You'll be playing more like the mid-range again, like mid-range buff your Murlocs, use them actually as board control and aggro cards. But yeah, when you're buffing those Murlocs and you're using Grim Street Outfitter and you're buffing all of them, like all of this seems to play really well with each other. So
Yeah, I'm
it's a good
wondering,
card.
are we just going to have like a hybrid Murloc Zoo Paladin? Because
Yeah,
Little
I
bit,
think
yeah.
something along the lines that basically, I think we're going to have a Paladin that plays a lot like Zoo, but instead of buffing on the board, you're going to do the buffing in your hand, and then you're going to play the already buffed
Then you're gonna buff
minions.
again on the board.
Well, yeah, and then you could potentially
can't
buff
do
again
it.
on the board, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think minion heavy minions that buff minions in a Zoo style is basically the way that Paladin is going to go after this expansion.
I'm very okay with that if that's what ends up happening.
I really feel like you're gonna buff them in your hand, and then you're gonna kings them, and you're gonna even like maybe Silver Moon Portal might, who knows, but like this Rainad I think called it Pants Paladin, which is like you play crappy minions and you put pants on them. So that's
Why pants? Pants don't make it like unless they're spiky
pants make you strong, Garrett.
Pants don't make you do more damage unless they're covered in spikes.
What kind of pants you wear?
Normal
my
freaking pants.
Damage dealing pants. But it's just a way to describe
Your
it.
primal leggings.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Just a way to describe, making them stronger. So, but I think we'll start to see things like the dragon eggs and stuff go in there and all that kind of stuff where you're just trying to make sure there are minions around, right? So yeah, some death rattly minions, a bunch of cheap minions, give them divine shields, and then buff the hell out of them and smash face.
Yep, a little bit of everything, and then you realize there's 30 cards max, and it's like, crap, I gotta figure something out. I'm excited.
Some tough choices in there.
I'm very excited to play around and tweak Paladin. Let's talk about the final common for Pally, Smuggler's Run. This is a 1-mana common spell, which gives all minions in your hand +1/+1. So you've got a 1-mana spell that does the same thing that the 2-mana minion of the Grim Street Outfitter does.
Yep.
Also, it's a Murlocs in a sidecar motorcycle, so much like the Piranha launcher, this card just wins from the art side of things.
So turn 1, you Smuggler's Run. Turn 2, you Grime Street Outfitter. Turn 3, you just play a bunch of one mana cards that are all now super strong.
There's the potential for some really disgusting god draws with these cards.
Yep.
Well, yeah, because you've got your oh shoot, what is she called? The one with divine shield.
Argent Squire.
Oh my god, Argent what?
Argent Squire?
Yes, the Squire.
Yeah, it's not
so
even
you've got, your 1/1s that now are potentially 3/3s with divine shield for 1 mana, which is just disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, man, I'm putting Wisps and Tiny Bubblefin in here. Let's do this.
Dude, put it all in there.
It's Tiny Fin?
Tiny Fin, sorry.
Murloc Tiny Fin.
Murloc Tiny Fin,
He
sorry.
will become Tiny Bubblefin, though.
Yes, he will. I will construct him, and that's apparently the name of Murloc Voltrons. I'm bad with names today, guys. Leave me alone.
It's all right. Look, do you know
It's
how
only
tired all
because
of us
Tiny
are?
Fin is so near and dear to my heart, Garrett. That's the only reason you get crap on that.
All right, fair enough.
I like Tiny Bubblefin. Can we make that happen, please?
I want a Tiny Bubblefin. I want
You
it.
should just be like a little Murloc in a bubble bath.
With water wings! With water wings made of bubbles!
Tiny Bubblefin. Tiny Bubblefin. I'm just
boy.
gonna stop.
Have we gotten?
Yeah, it's out of my system. I promise. I'm done.
No, I'm asking the audience. Have we gotten
Oh.
fun and fancy free enough for you? Like, is this silly enough for those of you who have thought the pre-BlizzCon episodes were a little too much of a downer? I think we've broken through that wall. We have some new ridiculous things to talk about. Let's talk about Getaway Kodo, the first rare up for Paladins. This is a 1-mana spell that is a secret, which reads, "The loudest motorcycle ever just drove by my house." The secret reads, "When a friendly minion dies, return it to your hand."
Okay.
Should be called Getaway Panda.
So here's the interesting thing, though. If you're trying to play like a modern standard secret paladin, I think you put one of these in there, because when you play your mysterious challenger, and then you have things
Dies,
like
you get another mysterious challenger.
well, but they'll attack and then they'll get down, but then the get down guy will then go into your hand as a 1-mana thing, and then he'll redeem, and then it's just one more like little annoying thing that continues to happen. I don't know. I think it goes in there because then of course the dream is always you play this with Tyrion, right? So that being said, unless that deck is good, this won't see play.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I mean, at the same time, you just mentioned basically like the dream situation where you've got your Kodo proccing on your Tyrion. And I mean, like, I feel like since it's a 1-mana spell, it has the ability to fit in a lot of different places. Like, if you are able to play Tyrion and then play this secret, it doesn't even really matter if your opponent makes the read and they know exactly what it is. If Tyrion's the only thing on board, you've got to kill that Tyrion eventually. What the heck do you do? Because you can't just leave the Tyrion up, and if you do, you've left Tyrion up. So, okay, bonus for the Paladin.
You raise your fist to the
two
sky
options,
and you shake it as hard as you can for the lack of sideboarding in Hearthstone.
Your other option. No, but the other, there's now a potential for Redemption and Getaway Kodo to both be really good with Tyrion. So
yeah.
I mean, it's just one more thing you have to think about. One more thing you have to potentially play around.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, if we start to realize that it's terrible and no one ever plays it, then it'll go away as far as our thought process goes. But the problem though with Paladin, like, it won't see play in the Paladin deck we're talking about because you don't really want to get all those little crappy 1-mana guys back. But even if you do,
I'm actually thinking N'Zoth Paladin, because like any of those that come back, it's another copy of a Death Rattle.
But even in that case, it's essentially acting as card draw almost. You know what I mean? It's like it's just putting a card back in your hand so you can still do stuff. You know what I mean? Because that is one of the problems with that deck is that you just run out of steam, right? So
Yeah,
it
this
just
is-
like allows a minion to die, and then you just now I have it back. I play it again, you know. So
Yeah, if Paladin is a Jeep, this is your gas tank strapped to the back of it.
yeah, it's fine. I think it's fine. I've seen a lot of people crap on this card. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. Again, it's potentially amazing. Most of the time, probably normal.
Of the four
Average.
Paladin cards we've already talked about, this is the one I'm least excited about. But yeah, it's fine. It's not a steaming pile. It's just a pile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about Grim Street Enforcer. This is a 5-mana rare minion for Paladins. He has 4 attack, 4 health, cool gold wings coming off of his fedora. And at the end of your turn, he gives all minions in your hand +1/+1. So this has hidden text dies.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it has to be dealt with. But that being said, it guarantees that you at least get 1 turn of this +1/+1. It's not the beginning of your turn; it's the end. So, yeah. I mean, again, in this Pants Paladin deck, this has a place. You know?
really don't want that to catch on.
This is like the high end of your curve, probably. But yeah, I think it goes in there.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. It's probably the high end of the curve, but then, like you said, you're getting the 1/1 buff for sure. But also, if you are playing the deck where you're buffing your minions, I mean, we've already seen the kind of early curve 1 and 2 drops that buff the minions in your hand. So there's a really good chance that if you're playing this kind of a deck and you're playing this card on turn 5, it's not actually coming out as a 4/4. It could be a 5/5, a 6/6, plus then it's buffing your whole hand. So I think
by the time it's out, it's bigger than a 4/4. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's going to be, even if, you know, it does see some silence or some hard removal, you're getting the tick for sure, and you're eating up silence or a hard removal, because I don't think that this is going to be a 4 health minion when it comes out.
Mm-hmm. But it's again, it's like a good card. I think the issue with this card, if we're going to bring up the problem with it, is that in a deck that we're describing that's full of 1-cost cards, by turn 5, how big is your hand?
Mm-hmm.
So how many minions are you actually buffing with it, right? So, you know, but still I think it fits because, like Jocelyn said, it won't just be a 4/4 at that point. And let's say you can like Divine Favor or Small
I was
Time
just
Recruits.
going to say that.
Exactly. Like you can refill your hand and then play this. You know, I think it's just, again, it makes it into that deck, but as like the biggest, like maybe this and Leroy are the highest cost cards in the deck, you know.
Or even if you're imagining that you're playing this kind of a buffy, and like we mentioned with the Squire, you're playing this kind of buffy, possibly Divine Shieldy, lots of minions on your board on turns 3 and 4 with all of the buffs from turns 1 and 2, then there's a good chance that you're able to kill a whole bunch of things, maybe a whole bunch of minions die, and you get, you know, free card draw with Solemn Vigil, and then all of a sudden, shabam, minions back in your hand, and then you play the Grime Street Enforcer, and then boom, on, you know, again, buffing all your hand up again. I think that this is...
Yeah, this deck is, I think, going to be really strong. I think it's going to run
powerful.
things like Blessing of Wisdom, too. I think it's going to have a lot of kind of sneaky card draw in it.
Yeah.
And then it's going to have the Dump My Hand Divine Favor type draws as well. You know, it's going to be a really interesting deck. There's going to be a lot of... People are going to have to experiment for a long time with this deck before you find that precise, optimal build. And once people do, it's going to be one of those decks where as soon as you kind of assess that that's what you're playing against, you're going to go, damn it, this is going to get bad real quick, you know.
You're absolutely right. That being said, I'm very excited to pilot this deck. And
oh, me too. I need Gold Paladin. I'm like 80 wins away, and like Paladin is just not fun right now for me. So I'm looking forward to a fun Paladin again.
I've abandoned Paladin entirely, and it was my go-to class for a very long time. Let's talk about the Grime Street Protector. I love that this guy just looks like the skeeziest lawyer ever. It's a 7-mana rare minion for Paladins, has 6 attacks, 6 health, taunt, and a battle cry that reads, give adjacent minions Divine Shield.
Sure. I mean, the problem with this card is that it's so expensive, those minions have to already be on the board, right? So it can't be played necessarily in conjunction with minions unless you're, say, waiting for turn 9. So you're hoping that you have minions that are sticky. So, like I said, this would be the card that doesn't make it into the deck we've been talking about. But if there's a strong mid-range Paladin, this is a really cool card to... It protects those cards in multiple ways, right? It not only has taunt itself, so they can't kill it, but now those minions can be used to trade without dying, free trades with those minions, whatever they might be. So I'm gonna wait and see with this card. It seems decent, but it's not. It's really slow.
Yeah, I was about
decent
to say,
but slow.
This seems like the most stuck in molasses card I think we've looked at so far.
Yeah.
To me, this is so slow. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know about this one.
Yeah, but man, when it works, it's gonna be sick, right? Like
It
you can
is.
set this down next to like okay, have a mysterious challenger turn 6, and then here's your new like Doctor 7 in that deck, right? There could be something there because that. When you do play that mysterious challenger, it is really hard to then clear that board, right? So there could be a place for it in that type of deck.
That would just be the backbreaker, man.
It's a wait and see type of card. But once it comes out, if it comes out and gets its value, it might just be like a game-winning card in those scenarios where it does.
Yeah. No, I mean in that Secret Paladin example you just gave, this would be the spine breaking in half.
Exactly.
Like this comes down and divine shields your buffed. Your buffed dude. So
yeah, and then you play Tyrion on turn 8, and then again it's like we're back to like that Doctor 6, Doctor 7, Doctor 8. And it could happen, but it might also just be too slow and never makes it in.
Also, yeah, if you're playing Secret Paladin, you're probably in Wild, and you already have Doctor Boom. So
that's true. Does it make it over Doctor Boom? No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. Let's talk about Mean Street Marshal, 1 mana epic minion for Paladins with 1 attack, 2 health, and a death rattle that reads, if this minion has 2 or more attack, draw a card.
Yep. This goes in. It's a Pants Paladin. It's like another one of them sneaky card draw cards, because like I said, like Blessing of Wisdom might get in there, but obviously we think Small Time Recruits and Divine Favor would be in there. But this is another way to kind of ensure. I think this and like Runic Egg will be your kind of other ways to ensure that you don't ever quite run out of steam. And yeah, 1 mana draw. It's like essentially reads 1 mana death rattle, draw a card, because it's always going to have more than 2 attack when you play it, right? Like you're just never going to play this unless it does.
It's not gonna be hard to find that +1 buff to attack.
Yeah, this card only goes in a deck that has so many ways to buff it that it's always going to draw. So.
Right,
and even abusive, even any of those kind of like one-time buff things. If it dies when it has that 2 or more attack, you're gonna get your card draw. So seems good.
I like it, and it's even a safe throwback if you don't have your Grime Street Outfitter or your Smuggler's Run in your opening hand. But if you do, I'll keep him and wait to play him.
Yep. Yeah, he'll come. Like he'll be a 2/3 almost every time. He'll be a 1 mana 2/3 almost every time in this deck. So. And
then if you're thinking, what if I get to turn 3, and I haven't drawn enough 1-cost minions? Well, do I have the card for you? Small Time Recruits is the final epic for Paladins. It's a 3 mana spell, and it reads, draw 3 1-cost minions from your deck.
So let's see. 3 mana, draw 3 cards. All of them are 1 cost. We know. All of them are minions. We know. Like that. That's so great. Like you thin your deck out of all these little 1-drop guys, and then you draw into like the later game stuff as the game goes late, right? So, and you're getting things like Grimscale Chum if you're playing the Murlocs. You're getting things like what's his name? We just talked Mean Street Marshal. If you're getting all those little, you're getting your Argent Squires. You're getting all those little guys you're trying to talk about. Abusive Sergeants, Runic Eggs, all the guys that would go into this deck. You're pulling all of those out, 3 at a time. Yeah, this is a good card.
Yeah, Paladin it seems so targeted with the cards that they are adding to the game for Paladin. Like they've really sat down and hammered out what they want to add to Paladin. This isn't something that's like been building over the course of multiple sets being released, right? It looks like it again. Could be wrong. It might not pan out as good as we think it is, but I doubt it. Like looking at this, it's like, yeah, no, we'll just get this, and a new archetype will be a thing, and it's probably going to work. Grime Street Protector and Getaway Coder are the 2 outliers.
Yeah. So in chat, someone just said Divine Favor is better. Well, let me just give you the scenario where Divine Favor sucks, and that's when you're playing the mirror match, and Divine Favor can never draw cards. I've played lots of aggro Paladin in my day, and Divine Favor can be insane and can also just be terrible. This card is always what it is. This card will always be draw 3 cards, right? And you don't. I mean, unless you draw it late game and you've already played all your ones. And by that point, you probably won or lost the game anyway, right? Yeah. So, I think you play both of those cards in this deck because, again, like if you play Small Time Recruits and you play Divine Favor, You play small time recruits. You draw all those. You play all those 1-cost minions the very next turn. So your hand is empty again. You draw Divine Favor. Then you refill your hand. Then so it's like they play very well together. So I don't see why you have to pick and choose between those two cards. Like they're not even comparable necessarily. They're cards you definitely talk about in the same vein because they're 3-mana draw cards, but they really do play really, really well together. So yeah, all of this goes in.
No, I like it, and I really like what you brought up about thinning your deck because guaranteeing you're getting those 1-drops out of there as you're moving later on into the game. That's a fantastic effect. That in the theoretical deck that we have been talking about this entire time in Paladin, that's a really good thing to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a theoretical deck crafted question.
Sure.
Is this small time recruits card something you keep in your mulligan if it pops up as a paladin?
No. I think it's a card you always throw back because you want to draw this in the mid to late game. This is your reload, right? So similar like Divine Favor, you don't keep because
right.
First you want to empty your hand, right? Before it's actually as good. Like what you want is you want that ultra fast start, right? So this is, I think, an always throwback card, and like the only time you really keep draw cards is when you're playing things like Freeze Mage and stuff. Like in Freeze Mage and Arcane Intellect is actually an okay card because it gives you something to do in those early turns. At least the current version of it, but I still even in that deck like don't often keep it, right? Because I'd rather have things like Doomsayer, Frost Nova, Frostbolt. No, I can deal with the early game rather than drawing. So yep, throw it back.
And we still have the Paladin Legendary to discuss, so let's talk about Wicker Flame Burn Bristle. What a name. This is the 3-mana Legendary minion for Paladin. He has 2 attack, 2 health, Divine Shield, Taunt, and if that wasn't enough, damage dealt by this minion also heals your hero.
Cool.
This is a really cool Paladin card. But I don't understand how a dwarf with a giant cannon is, first of all, a paladin, and second of all, healing anyone at all.
Thank you, Jocelyn. My thoughts exactly. We are on the same frequency.
That's a Healy cannon. What are you talking about? Yeah.
It's a healing crotch cannon?
So
That's what you're telling me?
It spurts damage out the front and heals out the back? Like.
So what weapons should he have? What weapons are there out there? Should he have 2 giant syringes, and he stabs you, draws your blood, and then, like, spits it back towards your hero? I mean, that's like gross myself out describing it, but I'm trying to figure out.
He should just be a paladin.
What type of weapon is this?
Paladins can heal. Nothing about this guy looks paladin at all.
Yeah, he could be holding a sword and then like a glowing book or something. Like damage and healing all in one would make sense. Like,
isn't he wearing though, like, or isn't he wielding some sort of a mace with?
No, it's like one of those brush things that you clean out.
Stuff the
cannon.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing about him that's paladin. Even down to his pinstripe pants that are either pirate or, in the case of Grimy Goons, just mobster.
Yeah.
But I mean, in Wicker Flame's defense, I'm gonna hide him for the video audience. Look at all the minions. None of them look like paladins. Grime Street Enforcer probably comes the closest to looking like a paladin, and Grime Street Protector maybe looks like the paladin that flunked out and decided to take up his dad's law firm in Gadgetzan. So
they may not be paladins; they're just working for a paladin. You know what I'm saying? Like they're,
Well, and this was kind of an issue that if you guys watched the interview that we did with Blizzard, as something I brought up, because as a hunter, I don't feel like a goon. I really thought that hunters were going to be like, I pictured like tricksy ranger trolls and elves and stuff up in the trees doing all the hiding. I really thought they were going to be Jade Lotus. So then when I found out that they're part of the goons, I was kind of like, really? Like, I don't feel like a goon. And I feel like Paladin is another one that's just kind of like, well, paladins don't really fit in anywhere else other than goons, but just because they're, a warrior kind of class. But
I could have seen paladin. Yeah, I mean, I guess they're thinking warriors, hunters, and paladins. These are like the weapony classes. But I kind of thought maybe it would be hunters, warriors, and rogues, maybe, or something. I don't know. Yeah. But again,
I would make the one point of Jocelyn. Everyone but you thinks hunters are goons.
I guess so. I know.
Yeah.
I just, I picture hunters in just much more of a stealthy tracker kind of a way than, and I know as soon as I say this, everyone's going to be like, but that is hunter. But I don't see hunters, at least in the greater lore, as like me hit face. Me, Goon.
Yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Hunter was my original main in World of Warcraft, and I love Hunter and Hearthstone, and that's definitely how I RP it in stuff like World of Warcraft. But at the end of the day, I'm using barrage and pulling 10 things and going, oh, sorry guys.
True.
Hunters are good.
But like the original idea of Hunter is, they're communing with animals and they're out in the wild and they're snipers.
Sniping things, yeah.
They're they're more precision than they've actually now got the reputation for, but whatever.
Yeah. In Hearthstone, though, let's be honest, they're just smorking all day.
In Hearthstone, they're smork machines, but yeah.
They got so like pigeonholed though into this whole smork idea, and there's been a lot of hunter builds before and since then that have been just as viable, and I don't know, I don't feel goony, and I think that paladins are another example. Like paladins are supposed to be these like awesome praying all the time holy good beings, and it's just like I don't know.
It's what Hearthstone's...
Goons is funny, and you're right. I think Paladin is the one where you kind of look at the cards and just go like, okay, these cards, this art doesn't look like it fits the feel of what I picture as a Paladin, as much as say like I feel it's like a sliding scale. Goons fit Warrior best, and then I think they kind of fit Hunter. Okay, I can get it, and then you get down to Paladin and you're kind of like, like you're healing me with your beard that's on fire and your giant chest cannon. Like, it's this conflict for me with some of the goon and the paladin are just in conflict as far as I understand.
But like, here's the thing again, though. It's the paladin himself is not like the minions that make up your deck don't all have to be paladins, right?
True.
Right.
Oh, 100%.
You are the paladin. You are the paladin, and then you are picking your gang to go fight with. And those guys are coming and helping. You've recruited these people, so not necessarily do they all have to then represent. But I get what you're saying. But I think you can get hung up on the details a little too much sometimes, or you can just kind of let it happen. I mean, they're coming up with weird stuff, and I, for one, am just like, let it be weird. Let's go. Let's go down this weird path. Yeah, let it be weird. Let's have fun with it. You're not wrong, but you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I am with you, Joss, but I also kind of concede it's like, well, this is Hearthstone. Hearthstone is where they get a little wacky, they get a little more, off the beaten path, and it's totally fine. But I'm with you. Yeah. My paladin's not a goon, and neither is your hunter. There, we feel good. Okay.
But in terms of the actual card, I think it's an awesome idea of your minions healing you while dealing damage. Almost like I want the priest to do is this whole discipline idea of the deal the damage and heal at the same time. This should have been a priest card.
Yeah, well, it's only one card. It's not like it's a new theme for paladins, but I think this guy is fine. I'm definitely gonna throw him in my Buffy Pally Zoo Pants Paladin. Dear God, I don't want to say that.
I think he could fit though into the mid range too, because 3-mana 2/2 with Divine Shield and Taunt will protect other mid range minions, right? Mm-hmm. And then just getting a little healing. You probably won't put a whole bunch of healing in those. Like Ivory Knight, I'm expecting maybe goes in there, maybe one Lay on Hands, that type of thing. But for the most part, you'll get some healing from this guy and Ivory Knights, and outside of that, you'll be playing a lot of just like kind of strong tempo minions, right? So
right.
I think he goes in that deck as well.
Yep. And they already have Tyrion. They're fine. They don't need an insane.
And late game.
Yep. Well, let's now that we're done with the 3 classes that make up the Grimy Goons, let's take a look at the 3 tri-class cards. Starting with the Grime Street Informant, which is a 2-mana rare tri-class card. 1 attack, 1 health, and a battle cry that reads, discover a hunter, paladin, or warrior card. And as just to reiterate, and hopefully won't need to reiterate it again from here on forward, but at BlizzCon they did say that regardless whether you are a hunter, a paladin, or a warrior, you will see 1 hunter, 1 paladin, and 1 warrior card when you go to discover.
Yes. I think this card is probably not that good, but if you're playing some sort of a Reno-y type thing, you put the 1 of. I don't know if you ever put 2 of these in.
Yeah, and we haven't actually seen the only Reno style card that we're getting outside of Reno is actually the priest. Is it priest card? Or is that one of the alchemy, the Cabal cards? Oh, sorry, it's a Cabal card, the Kazakus that lets you, if there's no duplicates, you make your own spell. There's nothing. outside of Reno that would drive you to a Reno deck in the
Sure.
Grimy Goons. Yeah.
However, Reno is a pretty strong enough reason to,
Yeah.
because like I have seen people try to do Reno Paladins and stuff before. It's even before we had this card, and then they would play weird things like friggin' scarabs, right? Jeweled scarabs, like, and this effect is probably better than a jeweled scarab because you get not just the 3-cost card, which is not that good in those particular classes, but you can then also like find something really good from one of the other classes. But again, it's like, yeah, I don't know. On 2 mana, you don't play a novice engineer anymore, right? So you probably don't play this card. I don't think this one makes it in.
I'm not I don't think this is going in my try hard decks anytime soon, but I am looking forward to just throwing it into deck for fun and pulling outside of my class.
Absolutely.
Seeing what ways
and I think it
can break
actually is going to be a fine card in Arena, because in Arena you'll be able to, even though you won't see that it's a rare, right? But yeah, I think it'll be a fine card there, because in Arena, there is a lot of tempo that's very important, but you can also, this would be a card you throw back early, and then if you top deck it late, it's actually very, very good there. So
yeah. Well, let's look at the Grime Street Smuggler. This is a 3-mana common minion for Paladins, Hunters, and Warriors. 2 attack, 4 health, and a battle cry that reads, give a random minion in your hand +1/+1.
All right. Decent.
Yeah.
Fine. Not great, not bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to replace any of the class-specific cards that we've seen so far, though. Like we talked about how the mechanic doesn't really work that well in Warrior anyways. Hunter has a lot of very, very strong 3-drops in that slot now. And then so Paladin, again, if you're looking at all of your other buff cards covering all of the minions in your hand, then to look at a minion that only gives 1 minion randomly +1/+1, I don't know if this makes the cut.
Yeah, but it's decent for a 3-mana 2/4 is fine.
Yeah.
It could be buffed already. Like if you're building your whole deck around this is like one more card that does that. So
I just don't
goes
know
into
if
that
there's-
type of deck. But
Yeah, I just don't know if there's room for it. That's all.
Yeah. And also, in terms of tri-class cards, good God, this one is so boring.
yeah. But it fits that theme, right? That all 3 of these kind of have that give a minion in your hand thing. So if that's what you're building your Paladin deck around, like if you can't find all of the cards to do it, then this card makes it. If you can, then it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's one of those cards we'll just, once we see what the deck actually looks like, then we'll know. As far as Arena, though, it's a common, neutral, it's fine. In Arena, it's like buffing a later card is actually going to be pretty decent. Playing a 2/4 on 3, while it's kind of weak then, it'll get made up for later. So I think it's fine there.
Yep. And then finally, the tri-class legendary for the Grimy Goons, Don Honcho. This 7 mana, 5 attack, 6 health, and a battle cry that reads, give a random minion in your hand +5/+5.
Seems pretty good, guys.
Yeah, so 7 mana 5/6 there's precedence for this already. There's the Paladin one that heals you 6 health. I'd rather get +5/+5 to a minion in my hand than heal for 6 in most cases, I think. So yeah, okay. When I'm playing that type of deck, I think it goes in there.
Yeah, and I think what's really great about all these buffing the minions in hand thing, because you feel like a +5/+5 should come with a mana cost, right? But if this lands on your 1 mana minion, then you're going to get a 1 mana minion that has +5/+5 on whatever its base stats are. Even if it's a 1/1, you're paying 1 mana for a 6/6, which is crazy.
By the way, thank God like charge cards aren't around as much anymore, because sometimes this will hit, like a horse
Alex
rider.
Strauss's champion.
I'm thinking a horse rider would be disgusting, right?
Yeah.
So we have a
gross.
7/6
Oh my God.
with charge and divine shield.
I
want
just threw
to.
up in my mouth a little.
It's like a Tyrion would. Imagine Tyrion could hit something the turn you played it. Like,
Yeah, that's nuts. So when those cases happen, that might just like straight win you the game, So I wonder if we're gonna see the return of like big game hunter with some of these cards now. It depends on how popular they are, but it's possible.
yeah.
I
Because
think
again, it's like hard removal, right? Like it removes without allowing for like the damage dealing effects and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the Reno type decks, and I feel like there's definitely space for a big game hunter in there. That's with all of these potential buff decks running around, then yeah, there's room in that 30 card deck for a big game hunter for sure.
I've got the beast in my sights.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, let's take a look at, let's move into neutral commons that we here on the Angry Chicken have deemed goonish.
Or goony. Goonish, goony.
Or Goonie, the Goonies. Yeah, that does not mean they're finding pirate treasure in a cave. So let's start with the neutral commons that are quote-unquote Goonish, starting with the Big Time Racketeer. 6 mana, common neutral minion with 1 attack, 1 health. And don't worry, a battle cry that reads summon a 6/6 ogre. I love the art on this card. It's the Joker goblin, and I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious that you get this teeny tiny little guy instead of like the usually it's the big minion that summons the little token. This time you have the token that summons the giant minion. I love it.
He's got his muscle, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his muscle behind him. This is a cool card, and I will play the hell out of this with like my Bran. Like if I make a deck that's like say a Reno-y type deck with like Bran in it and stuff. Give me a 1 mana that summons 2 6/6s, please. Hell yeah, let's go for it.
That's gross.
It is. Yeah, we do have to point out it is a nerf to Moonglade Portal, which summons a random 6-drop. So sometimes now you will get a 1/1 from your Moonglade Portal.
Does not summon a 6/6.
Yeah. The other thing I was, and someone in chat, I was going to bring this up too, the evolve potential here, because you can play this in your evolve shaman. You get the 6/6, but your 1/1 is a 6-drop. So evolving that into a 7 cost card. Pretty sweet.
Kind of gross. Also, play Don Honcho. Don Honcho's +5/+5 lands on your Big Time Racketeer. Yes.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, you play a 6/6 that summons a 6/6.
Is it consistent? No. Can I dream? Yes.
It'll happen sometimes. This card, I'm definitely gonna have fun with this. And I think in Arena, this is the card you pick because
absolutely.
You pick Boulder for Stoker, you'll pick this, right? So
right. Why wouldn't you? Also, it's a cool looking card. I want a golden version of this, man. This is just such a cool looking card.
It is, yeah.
Hired Gun is next. This is a 3 mana common, 4 attack, 3 health, taunt.
Okay.
Cool. Cool art. I like the weird gun contraption it's got.
They need to fill out the stat lines of essentially vanilla minions. You can say it's like kind of vanilla, right? Like, just all it says is taunt. You have a 3 mana 3/4 taunt with the monkey in Warrior. But now anybody can have a 3 mana 4/3 with taunt. Trades up kind of nicely, but dies to a lot of 2 mana spells. So, has some downside, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Arena, sure. Let's do it.
Let's talk about Tenaris Hog Chopper. Now, there's multiple Hog Choppers. Jocelyn, these have got to be Quillbore, right? Because we did not just discover a brand new pig race in Warcraft, did we?
No, we did not. So I do think that these are Quillbore. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just want to get that out of the way.
It's kind of hard to tell because they're on motorcycles and they're dressed and they're holding weapons. So there's a lot of things obscuring their design and their actual bodies. But yes, I think that is what they are.
This dude is also rocking a horde tattoo on his shoulder, which I guess
you should.
And you can tattoo fur now, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, Tenaris Hog Chopper is going to cost you 4 mana, has 4 attack, 4 health, and a battle cry that reads, if your opponent's hand is empty, gain charge. Cool.
So I don't know how you empty your opponent's hand on purpose.
Well, I think this is a if the meta is really aggressive type of a card. If you're facing a lot of face hunters, then yeah. But I'm not saying it's good. But I think
play a card that's only good against this, even if the meta is very heavy that way. There's other options that are definitely much better than this. So unless there's a way for me to forcefully empty your hand, I don't think we see this, right? So. There's ways to forcefully fill a hand.
I was going to say, what's the opposite of milling someone?
Playing badly. Yeah. Just letting them play, and you're just waiting for them to get into the hand.
It's just not going to have charge enough times. It's just going to be a 4/4 almost all the time. So
it's worth reiterating before I make my next comment that not all cards need to be good. Bad cards need to exist. But this is the kind of card that makes me go, why don't we have any mode in Hearthstone with sideboarding? Because then cards like this would be cool and actually interesting instead of making me want to just kind of dismiss them and move on.
In a sideboard tournament, this would be a card you might bring along as your sideboard card because then suddenly it could be decent. But
but that's not a thing. So, meh. And finally, because what is more goonish than greasers? Organ Greaser. 4 mana, 6 attack, 3 health. Period.
Terrible card, amazing art.
Yeah, I love.
But it hits
love,
for
love.
6.
It is never gonna hit for anything, Dills.
No, it's gonna hit for 6. Sometimes, but no, it'll still be a bad card.
I like playing Hearthstone, assuming my opponent will make all the wrong calls.
It's just I don't know. It's Ice Rager +1.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah. It like Jocelyn said, fantastic art. Moving on.
Yeah.
Let's look at Goonish neutral rares, starting with the second-rate Bruiser. This is a 5-mana rare minion, 4 attack, 5 health, taunt, and he costs 2 less if your opponent has at least 3 minions.
So yeah, this is the anti-aggro. If the meta is very aggro, this is the tech you play against it, right? Because playing a 3-mana 4/5 with taunt is just pretty good. So
Yeah.
Yes.
that being said, so again, so here's the other option for this card, is I talked about the taunt warrior and protect the king and bolster and stuff. This would be a card that fits into that if that's the deck you're trying to do, because you're letting the opponent build up a board, right? And then punishing them with like cards like protect the king and bolster. So maybe you could throw a second rank bruiser in there to kind of just reinforce that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because that idea really sucks when all you can punish them with is a bunch of 3/3s with taunt. Now you can maybe punish them with a bunch of 3/3s and a 4/5, and then once we bolster, he's a 6/7. So maybe there. We'll see.
I'm glad you drew that parallel. I didn't even think about that. That is interesting.
Yeah, because like that's the whole thing, is like letting your opponent build a board was always like, now you just get punished because you did it. So yeah, maybe this gives them enough gas to make that work.
Then we also have Spiked Hog Rider. So I think the only Hog Rider that really looks like a quill board to me. 5 mana, 5 attack, 5 health, and a battle cry that reads, if an enemy minion has taunt, gain charge. So if Taunt Warrior really takes off, man, I'm still not sure this is even a card that you care about.
There's enough taunt in the meta, though, that I think this is fine. I think this one is better than the other one that we already looked at. Because even if it's just a 5-mana 5/5, it's not the worst. But there are enough taunts out there in the world that you can probably get this to have the charge that you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's also really interesting that now they're moving away from just straight up charge and moving into more of a situational charge, and kind of recognizing how powerful that can be and how frustrating that can be to play against. This way, and now that you know that these cards are in the game, it's something at least for you to think about, like, do I think they're playing this card? Have I seen a lot of X, Y, and Z that would lead me to think that this is in their deck? If you see a warrior with a lot of taunt, maybe you're going to play 2 minions at a time instead of 3. And, it lets you, although obviously that's not the charging minion, but still, there's a lot of more the decisions that need to be made in your actual play style as well, knowing that these cards are in the game, as opposed to just like, well, they can give everything charge, or I'm just going to get beat down and it's going to really suck. Now it's situational, which I think is good and kind of brings charge down to the power level of where it should be.
I agree 100%.
I think too, what's interesting about this card is there's a potential where if you play the 4/3 with charge or whatever, right? You might actually give the opponent, if you play a hired gun, you might give the opponent lethal. Which is kind of like a weird thing to think about, like if this card is a card that actually does see play, and it is something you might have to actually play around this card. This is kind of interesting. The other thing too is, let's say you play the Taunt Warrior and you play Sparring Partner. You use Sparring Partner an opponent's minion, and then Spiked Hog Rider, giving it charge. So you could figure out some stuff there. Maybe you can find an OTK there. Sparring Partner, Spiked Hog Rider, then you do the damage, then you inner rage it, and then you rampage it. It replaces your old school Worgen with Spiked Hog Rider OTKs. Could be a thing.
That's really clever.
Yeah.
Really,
you'd have to Thoris on a whole bunch of stuff, but I don't know. I think this is better though, because this makes the OTK much harder to pull off, right? Like it becomes something that really has to get set up, rather than all I have to do is gain all these cards, Thoris on them once, and then I have the lethal, right? So it's a cooler way to kind of force that.
Yeah.
If you saw someone asked, if you silence the taunt, do you lose a charge? No, it's a battle cry. So as long as the taunt was there, when you played this card, it has the charge.
Well, let's move on and wrap this up with the goonish neutral epics and legendaries. Starting with Dirty Rat, a 2-mana epic minion, has 2 attack, 6 health, taunt, and the battle cry that reads, your opponent summons a random minion from their hand. And this has been clarified. It removes that minion from the hand. It does not summon a copy.
Yeah, it would say summon a copy. Yeah. When I looked at it, I immediately thought, yeah, this is just Death Lord, but instead of out of your deck, it's out of your hand, right? So, here's one thing that was interesting.
And it's a battle cry, not a death rattle.
Well, yeah. But, I'm just saying, it works in that similar way, right? It literally pulls the card out. So the opponent won't get the battle cry from that minion. They'll just pull that minion out. It'll place it on the field. But here is one way to empty a hand, right? For Tenarius Hog Chopper.
Yeah, one card at a time.
Yeah.
Not enough ways. That being said, though, it's an anti-aggro card. It's probably pretty bad, honestly. But if you have removal, like I could see this being in a deck where, like, let's say a warrior could, have a weapon already equipped and then do this and then immediately take care of the minion that comes out. So
maybe, unless it's like Rag or something, or.
But that's always the downside, right? Like Deathlord saw play, and sometimes Rag got pulled out and you lost the game. But
hey guys, have you already so quickly forgotten the Angry Chicken's patented Confused Priest? Come on.
That's true.
They're clearly.
But the other thing too is if you play this in the early game, most of the time the opponent won't have a card like Rag because they will have mulliganed those cards away, right? So most of the time they will pull out some smaller minion, right? Some other early game minion, which will then likely die to a 2/6. So
yeah,
there is that. I don't think it's good though.
No, I don't think it's.
I don't think so either. It's interesting, and I love the art on this one, but no, I don't think it's a good card. Let's talk about the Leather-clad Hog Leader. So this is the last of the Hog Riders I believe we've seen so far. It's a 6-mana epic minion, 6 attack, 6 health, so 6/6 for 6, and a battle cry that reads, if your opponent has 6 or more cards in hand, gain charge. More conditional charge.
Yep. This one's, again, like better than the 4-mana one, but you'll have to either, like against the control deck, is a 6-mana 6/6 with charge going to maybe like kill them? Probably not. Is there an OTK you can set up if you play Cold Light Oracles? Maybe. But again, like we'll have to kind of see the whole set to understand how good these are actually going to be.
Yeah. Then we've got the Wind Up Burglebot next. Costs 6 mana. It is a mech minion, by the way. Has 5 attack, 5 health, and reads, whenever this attacks a minion and survives, draw a card.
This card's bad.
Yes.
This card's
It's just.
I was literally in my head just winding up to say something like, well, maybe if you play it later with a Thoris on no, it's just, it won't work.
You pay 6 mana for a 5/5 that then has to survive a turn, that then has to attack a minion and survive that as well, to then just draw a card.
The minion buffing that is coming with a lot of the Goon cards will have to far exceed my expectations in its success to make a card like this good.
Yep. So, I mean, we got a mech. So, mech decks have historically run out of cards pretty fast.
Could this, could this be a more of a wild card, something that you play with your mech warpers?
Sure, maybe.
And,
yeah, possibly.
Might work out
But
better
even there, I think it doesn't make the cut. There's just such better cards to throw into that stuff. So, it's a cool concept. It's an interesting idea. But and again, it's like all of these cards are wait and see. But based on the information we have about how things go in this game, this doesn't happen often enough to find a place in a deck.
Yeah, a lot of times this is play, die, get nothing.
Pay 6 mana for nothing.
Yes, yeah. Let's talk about our first neutral legendary, Auction Master Beardo, who I am saying is goonish for no other reason than he doesn't look like he's hanging out with the other two clans. He looks like a pimp, which I would say is goonish. So this is a 3-mana legendary minion. He has 3 attack, 4 health, and after you cast a spell, you get to refresh your hero power.
Yeah. Okay.
Seems
That
like
could be pretty cool.
seems like something
Could
that
be
should have been
cool.
in the grand tournament in terms of the effect.
Yeah. It would seem like, but maybe you can play him with Inspire cards, right? So, like, let's say you played him with the Witch Doctor deck and Shaman, and you can pay 0 mana for Totemic Might, and then you can get another totem out. You refresh your hero power, you get another totem out, then you cast another spell, and you get another free totem. And I don't know, there might be something there. That being said, it's a 3 mana 3/4, so even at its worst, it's like a 3 mana 3/4, right? So
Yeah.
it did that. It probably forced the opponent to maybe deal with it. But unless your hero power is something like really good, I don't know how good it is to refresh your hero power. So
I don't think
you
it's
can
that
play
good.
it with your Major Domo deck, right? Or in your Jiraxis decks, and then get multiple 6/6s. So yeah, I don't think it's good. I think I think it's whatever.
I'm not. Beardo does not excite me. His costume does, but not his effect. So
Yeah, you're gonna need to play. Well, okay. Then here's the other thing: if you could just the car your hero power, I don't know. But it just seems like so many things have to go in your favor for this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, this is what we were talking about earlier. Is there are some mechanics that you can build the deck around, and then there's others like this where it's just like, okay, but I would have to in one turn combine, 2 hero powers plus a spell plus maybe playing this because I don't want it to die, and it's too many situations where they all have to line up in order to make this a good card. So therefore, probably not a good card. And then your hero power, like you'd have to put it in a deck or in a class that has a powerful hero power, like Warlock or like Hunter or Warrior, just a card. Like it's just too many things have to line up to make this good.
it asks too much of us.
Yes.
That's
And the
too
hero
much.
power comes back and still costs 2 mana.
It does
So
cost,
that's-
yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like.
So
yeah.
then maybe you could pair it with, what is it, Maiden of the Lake? Is that or
Yeah,
which
Maiden of
one's
the Lake
the-
makes it
yeah.
cost 1, yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
like, dumb card.
But if Garrison Commander never got into a deck, which was the 2 mana 2/3 that gives you the ability to just press it twice, I don't see how a 3 mana 3/4 that forces you to cast a spell to refresh it so you can press it twice ever makes it into a deck, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's going to take some very specific thing
Also,
that hasn't existed yet, and we'll see.
yeah, like you mentioned Garrison Commander. I'm glad you brought that up because then I'm just left with, why is this even legendary?
because there's bad legendaries. Legendaries are more complicated. They're rare. They're meant to be that way. They're designed that way because of new players to Hearthstone, and don't confuse them, and blah blah blah. Everything that we've heard about legendaries for the past 2.5 years.
Yeah, but Garrison Commander, man, Garrison Commander is less confusing than this. And
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's just a weird
I
card.
don't know. Strange.
Because I was thinking about the decks or the classes that have cheap spells that you could then make this work in. I'm like, Rogue doesn't want to refresh their hero power, unless maybe you're talking about some sort of weird. What's the dumb weapon that they got that gets stronger when you hero power? And I used to always get people to try to make a deck around that. The 4 mana 1/4 weapon.
Assassin's Blade.
No.
Oh wait,
Poison Blade.
Poison Blade.
Blade. There you go. Let's play Auction Master Beardo. Backstab something. Keep making your Poison Blade better. There's just no way. Yeah, it's just bad. It's just,
And then also hope you have a lot of mana.
yeah.
Oh, geez. All right, well, let's bring it home, guys. Let's end our first round of card talk with Patches the Pirate, which they showed at BlizzCon, and it made me giddy then, and it still makes me giddy now. This is one of the most ridiculous designs for any character in Hearthstone. This is a Watcher wearing way too many eye patches over his way too many eyes. This is also a 1-mana legendary pirate minion with 1 attack, 1 health, charge, not conditional charge, just charge. And it reads, after you play a pirate, summon this minion from your deck. And Blizzard already ruined the dream for us.
Yeah, they showed us the big combo.
Yeah.
But, even if it's like if you make an aggressive pirate deck, even if you don't get that combo off, the first time you play a pirate, which will be like turn 1 or 2, you'll get a free 1/1 with charge. So, I don't know. That's fine.
I could dig it. And
Seems
also,
okay. Yeah.
the potential for that broken as all get out combo is enough to make me want to try and make it happen.
But even if you so even if you don't play it in that, let's say you put it in like your pirate warrior, right? One of the best things about pirate warrior is when you can say on turn 1 you can play, a couple of 1-drops or whatever, or even like say you can play N'Zoth's first mate, and then immediately get the 1 attack weapon and patches the pirate, and then you've already got 2 1/1s on board and a 1/3 weapon. That's turn 1. That's pretty good. So. I don't know. Like even without the combo, some people don't know the combo. We should just tell them. Yeah. So if you make an aggressive pirate deck, I think you just put this in anyway. Because at worst it's a boar, right? That is a pirate. But the combo is that you gang it up twice. So you play a pirate. Now you got 6 of them in your deck. All 6 come out onto the board. They all have charge. And if the pirate that you played is the South Sea captain, then they are all 2/2s that come out. So yeah, you play. There you go.
So you buff. Yeah, you play 6 charging 2/2s.
Yep. 12 damage to face. Oh man. Like after all the combos we've had with charge minions that do so much more, I'm like 12 damage to face is fine. Whatever.
Totally balanced.
Yeah. So I think I make an aggressive pirate warrior deck. I throw this guy in. I don't need to do the whole crazy gang up combo thing that they're talking about. So it's fine.
Yeah, indeed.
Does ship's cannon trigger? I believe ship's cannon says summon.
Yeah, does it say summon or does it say play? Because that'll be the difference.
Yeah. If ship's cannon says summon, then yes. If it says play, then no. Summon a pirate.
All right.
Okay, so yeah.
Yep.
But it is itself not a pirate, so it wouldn't trigger it. So if you had 6, you would only get 5, right? Because you'd have to play another pirate, meaning you would have ship's cannon on board, a pirate, and that would trigger.
But even without the combo, you could just play a ship's cannon, and then play another pirate, and then when this guy comes out for free, you'd play that pirate, and this one you get 2 damage missiles going off.
Absolutely right. So. Yeah.
I think we need to stop thinking about just the combo with this card, because I think that's they showed that off, and that's what everyone was like, ooh, oh. Yeah. But honestly, it's like a just pulling it out of your deck, a free 1/1 with charge is actually fine. It's totally a normal good thing on its own.
It's a cool card, and the art is hilarious. So a win-win in my book.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like Patches. I want to swap the poop deck with him.
You just wanted to say poop.
You're right, Jocelyn. You're right. Well, before we wrap this, good God, what is we at? We're almost at 2 hours. Before we wrap up this,
I think skip the emails.
Yeah. Sorry,
get out of here.
Sorry,
all
emails, guys, and it might be a little while before we do emails again. Depends on how many cards are released by next Tuesday. But before we get out of here, also, if you're listening to this on podcast, you're like, but guys, it's 2 hours and like 30 minutes, and that's because we're going to have the Team 5 interview from BlizzCon at the end of this after our outro, so stick around for that.
A beast of an episode.
Yeah, but before we do all of that, we have to thank those most hardcore, those most fantastic of TAC listeners, our patrons over at patreon.com/TAC. So thank you, everyone who are supporting us over there. And I lost the list. Where is it? There it is. On this episode, thank you to Mitchell HL, Gino M, Chris M, Zach C, Keegan W, Ronnie A, Drew W, and Patrick, no last name or initial given. So maybe you're Patrick, maybe you're Patrick Beja. Who knows?
No, we already thanked him way long
we did
ago.
already thank Patrick
Maybe
Beja,
it's Patrick Stewart.
Maybe it is Patrick Stewart. You heard it here first. Patrick Stewart endorses the Angry Chicken. Not just whatever that beer is that he's been shilling on commercials I've seen lately. But yeah, thank you very much. Also, thank you to Declination Peter Williams, our patron producers. We got to see Peter at BlizzCon, and he brought us some lovely champagne that I don't know about you two, but that put me over the edge of decency the second night of BlizzCon. That was what...
It's wonderful.
After many other alcoholic beverages, the champagne was what is like, okay... Rowdy Garrett's
like,
coming
well,
out.
We can't drink it here anymore, but there's champagne at the hotel room.
Yeah, so thank you, Peter, and to all of our patrons. So if you're enjoying the Angry Chicken, you would like to support the show, patreon.com/TAC is the best place to go and do that. Show's always going to be free, folks, but that's how you can support us directly. Anyways, other than that, find everything else over at amove.tv. Keep those iTunes reviews coming. We have the t-shirt store is back up and running, so you can go to shirts.amove.tv to get the Angry Chicken or the Jobs Done shirt or any of the other Amove shirts. You can get our coffee mugs, pint glasses, and other things to drink out of over at etched.amove.tv. Follow the show on Twitter at TAC Podcast and catch us live Tuesday nights at 4 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/AmoveTV. Dills, where can folks find you?
You can check me out on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/WillieDillsSF. On Twitter, I am at WillieDills. And, of course, the Instance podcast, which actually I believe just put up an interview with Chris Metzen, so you guys should all go check that out. I'm not involved in that. It's just Scott and Chris, but I'm hearing good things already, and Scott was raving about it, so go check that out. But, yeah, come check out the stream. We'll be back on an everyday streaming schedule now that we're not traveling constantly, although tonight might be a short one because I'm still in full-on recovery mode, and I definitely need to let my voice chill for a second. And 2 hours of tack probably didn't help that. So come hang, and it'll be good times.
I think everyone has probably noticed that we have all cleared our throats multiple times this episode, and it's called BlizzCon, and for Dills it's called BlizzCon plus MGA,
BlizzCon followed by Vegas.
Jocelyn, where can folks find you when you're not doing the Angry Chicken?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays, and you can find me right here on twitch.tv/AmoveTV every Wednesday night for the Gamers In. You can also find links to everything I do at jossplays.com.
Sweet. You can find me on Twitter, everyone, at Garrett Art. There are 2 R's and 2 T's in my name. Everyone forgets that second T. Everything else is on amove.tv, including Joss. If you like Joss and I talking at each other, you should check out either Embrace the Spoilers, where we're spoiling Westworld, and that's not even going that much longer. But if you're like, man, I just really want more, we also have a WoW show we've been doing, thanks to Embrace the Spoilers, but that one's not ending, at least not anytime soon. So check out For Azeroth or Embrace the Spoilers, wherever podcasts can be found. And definitely check out harrys.com. They sponsor today's episode. You sign up for your free trial set, use the code TAC, and you will get Post-Shave Balm added to your free trial set, absolutely free. You'll support Angry Chicken in the process, and you'll also get fantastic, high-quality razors at a fraction of store prices. So check out harrys.com. Thank you all for tuning in, and until next time, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Yes.
Save that voice.